Welcome back to the Gen 20 podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Marina.
And today we're going to be talking about burnout.
Burnout. What is that, Nicole? What is burnout?
When I Googled it to get the official definition, it said that burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. So what do we think about that?
It feels right. That feels familiar. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been burnt out for the last 5 years.
Yeah, my whole life.
Yeah. And we have a bunch of articles on our website talking about it, but here's an excerpt we pulled, and it says, have you ever been on the brink of burnout? You might know the feeling, physical or mental exhaustion from being overworked, and symptoms can include extreme fatigue, anxiety, loss of appetite, depression, impaired concentration, and more. If you're an overachiever with tendencies to work long hours, take heavy workloads, and live life with an enormous weight of pressure on your shoulders, then you probably need to watch for burnout. And it's just like me being that emoji, raising her hand, like, hi, hit me.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I think we're just all living in a low-level state of burnout constantly because we're always stressed. We as a generation have so many stressors in our lives.
And it's like, why? Isn't technology supposed to make our lives easier? Why are we so stressed out?
Maybe we're overstimulated all the time. There's so many screens and so many things grabbing for our attention, so many things we're supposed to be doing, quote unquote, supposed to be doing.
Oh, yeah. That the should versus want conundrum, that gets me a lot. And I think it's easy to think about oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And then you kind of just over commit to things, especially if you look at social media on Instagram or Facebook or the TikTok, as kids are on TikTok. It's so much. And you think, or at least I've thought, wow, I should be doing more. I need to do this. And I kind of lose sight of what I want to be doing because it's just comparison city.
Yeah, and it's all playing into the idea of hustle culture where everything that we're doing needs to be getting us closer to something, closer to a goal, whether it's our goal or a goal someone set for us. And it's just everything that we're doing constantly needs to be productive, quote unquote. And that's not necessarily true,
Yeah, I saw, where was it? A meme on Instagram that was talking about how hobbies don't have to be profitable. And it literally floored me because I like to do embroideries, and I stopped because I was like, well, I can't do enough to make it into a business, so why bother? And I was like, that's literally the dumbest thing. I should just do it because I enjoy it.
You really should bother with that.
Yeah.
And do it because it's fun and because you like it, not because it can make you money.
Yeah. And ironically, I started embroidery 5 years ago when I realized I was burnt out I was working at a customer service center and just constantly multitasking and overstimulated. So I got to the point where I couldn't even watch TV without staring at my phone. So I was like, okay, I'll watch TV and embroider so that at least I'm doing something that's not looking at a screen. So I started a hobby because I was already burnt out. And then I'm turning it into something I should be making into an income. That's a sure sign of the hustle culture failing us.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. I think a lot of it for us, I think as a generation, really stems from social media because we're seeing the highlight reel of other people's lives. And I think a lot of times people are just constantly sharing how they've turned their hobbies into side hustles or how they did X, Y, and Z. And I feel like when you're sitting at home, just embroidering, you're like, why am I not doing that?
Yeah. And I think too, with social media and this comparison and the hustle culture and just being in our millennial generation in general, it's a lot of fear of income or lack of income because it's we've learned to equate time with money and not just time. And so I know for me, I was working a full-time job that was not paying me enough to pay rent, which is insane, but that's a conversation for another day. But I was spending 40 hours at work and I'd come home and I'd think, okay, how can I make more money? can I get a part-time job? I took on a bunch of freelancing gigs, and it was just this constant fear of, if I lose this part-time gig or this one freelancing thing, can I pay my rent? And do I have to ask my parents for money? And being almost 30, I don't want to feel that way.
Yeah, a lot of it definitely, I think, stems from financial instability and that feeling of we don't even know how we're gonna pay our rent. Like, how are we gonna start saving and achieving these other goals, like paying off debt or saving for retirement? And it's just we're always hustling to reach goals that are kind of too far away for us to reach in the time that we think we should reach them.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people measure success with like time milestones. So, oh, I'm 25, I should have been at a job for this much time, or I'm 28 and I should live by myself, or I'm 30, I should be engaged or married, and kind of making these benchmarks. But if I've learned anything in the last 9 years of my 20s, I cannot stress enough how we are all on a different path. I cannot plan my path as hard as I've tried. Nothing has turned out the way I thought it would, but everything has turned out fine. I feel like somehow our generation of 20-year-olds has been trained to work really, really hard. And if we're not achieving what we want, it's because we're not working hard enough.
Mm.
And it's not true, because if I'm
Mm.
working a 40-hour job, ideally that would be enough to pay my rent. And I shouldn't have to work 4 jobs or 3 jobs
Mhm.
to pay rent.
Yeah, I also think that really ties into this other kind of culture we're part of as a generation, and I think that's something I would call, like, the say yes culture. That we basically been told that we're not allowed to have personal boundaries, essentially, and we need to say yes to every opportunity that comes our way.
Yeah, that was advice I got from my career center in college my senior year. They said, if you want to get ahead when you are at your first job, say yes to every opportunity, say yes to everything. That's how you'll get ahead. And let me tell you, it did not help me. It just made people see me as a doormat. And
Mhm.
that does not serve you to be seen that way.
Amen. Amen.
Like, say it louder for those in the back.
Yeah.
Do not be a doormat. Don't say yes to everything.
I mean, I understand the concept where it's like, "Oh, you're opening yourself up to different opportunities," but in reality, you need to do that in a far more targeted way and
Hmm.
do it to the point where you're saying yes to the things that are gonna lead you in the right direction, because not saying no to things that don't serve you it's not good for you, and it's not good for the opportunity that you're taking because you don't truly want to be there, and it really
Hmm.
just leads you to be even more burnt out because you're taking on far too much.
Yeah. I love the quote that's just, no is a complete sentence, because it's so true and it's been hard for me to learn, but no is a really important word to have in your vocabulary
Yeah, and to use it.
and to use it. Exactly. So, what are we going to do about this burnout? Like, what can we do?
Well, I think one of the first things that we all need to learn to do collectively as a generation is to set boundaries and enforce them.
It's so true. I've actually been practicing that this week, and a couple of people asked me to do projects for them, and I said, "Listen, I would love to work with you in the future, but I can't take new work right now. I'm trying to figure out a couple things, and it's just not
Yeah.
a good
Well,
time."
what you say is, "I'm booked out.
Yeah.
You can get on my wait list."
That's true. That just makes you more desirable. But what I found interesting about saying no to these people who I know very well was that I was really afraid of their response, and nothing happened. I don't know why. I thought they would say, "Oh, well, then the train's leaving the station. We're never going to work together," or something. But they were all like, "Okay, cool. I respect your boundary. Check in with me later."
I think one thing that's interesting about that is that also by saying no to things, you're allowing them to also say yes to things that are a better fit for them because you know it's not the right fit for you. So you doing that, you're not going to be bringing your best work to the table, and it's not fair to anyone
Yeah. If you're doing something, you should do it with your full intent. I totally agree.
because if you're not fully in it or you just feel like you do it because you have to do it, that's just going to lead you to be burnt out
Hmm.
because it's stressful.
Yeah, it's really stressful. And I've realized that saying no also gives you the space to take breaks. And I don't know about you, but like breaks or relaxing, quote unquote, have I learned I was doing it wrong because I was talking to someone recently and they're like, "Oh, well, you relax a lot, right?" It's like, "Yeah, I relax all the time. When I get home from my job, I turn on Netflix and I have like really nice evening to myself." And they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, so what are you watching on Netflix?" It's like, "Oh, well, I was rewatching Parks and Rec because then I would just open my computer and do work. So I wanted to be able to concentrate on both." And they're like, "I don't think you know what relaxing means." It's like,
What do
maybe you're right.
you you're sitting there watching TV with your computer? Like, that's not they don't think that's relaxing? Like,
I'm like, is that not how you do it?
yeah. Wow, that's funny.
But you've always been good about taking breaks. I learned that from you. You take baths a lot, and I started introducing that into my weekly ritual. Just every Sunday night, I take a bath for like an hour and just listen to my favorite podcast.
Yeah, I know that people a lot of times will say that a bath is not really, like, true self-care, and, okay, I get that in some ways, but to me, like, that is the time that I take for myself, and that's how my brain interprets it, as, like, you
Hmm.
are the number 1 priority right now, and, like, your mental health and what you want is, like, taking precedence, and I think, like, to me, that is such a powerful thing to, like, have internally in my brain, because it's reinforcing those thoughts in my own head that I matter, and in a world where there's, like we all have so many responsibilities, we don't take enough time for ourselves, so, I don't know. That's kind of a whole aside there, but, yeah, I think that it's really important that all of us take at least an hour a day where we just do things that we want to do because we want to do them.
Exactly. Yeah. And for me, the bath has turned into that because I literally cannot bring my laptop or my phone into the bath. So I'm forced to sit and finally like rest. And it gives me an opportunity to just think and process all the thoughts that are running around my head and kind of decompress so that I've actually felt like I've taken a pause. And that has been really important.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that, and I just had this other thought about how I think our generation is always trying to escape our day-to-day life, and there's some quote about, like, how you need to create a life you don't need a break from or, like, a
Mm-hmm.
vacation from or something, but because over the past few years, I've done this thing where I feel like I'm working so hard for, like, months, and then I take a 2-week vacation because I need time for me, but why are we not taking our mini vacations every single day?
Yeah, totally. When I was working this job in New York and I was overwhelmed and burnout and sad, I kept thinking to myself, okay, so I go to work so I can afford my apartment, but I have my apartment so that I can have a place to live while I go to this job that I hate. And it was this like, I was gripped in fear on the subway because I realized, oh my God, this is what I'm doing every day, 5 days a week for like 50 weeks a year, except for those 2 vacation weeks. And I'm going to do this until I'm 60 and hopefully I won't die before that. Like, I panicked.
Mhm.
And shortly after that, I quit my job and went to grad school, but we can talk about that on another day. But yeah, it's just, why can't we be building lives that are productive and satisfying and stable, but also that we enjoy doing all the time?
And then we're not, like, shaming people for taking breaks or not hustling constantly, like, it shouldn't be a point of pride how many hours you work a
Yeah.
week, you know?
And I know when I was in college, I was talking to I was at a career thing, and they were talking about different careers and how, lawyers will work insane hours but they have all these things. And I was just like, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. Like that doesn't sound good to me.
But if it is appealing to you and you're trying to become a lawyer, we believe in you. Thank you.
Yeah. We need the good guys out there to help us.
Yeah.
So I know, for example, my dad, he works crazy hours. He's an engineer and he loves it. Like he's side note, he's actually who I learned the whole like relaxing by working in front of the TV thing.
Mm.
But he genuinely loves his job and So he enjoys putting the work into it because he's proud of what his work is, and he's proud of what he's doing, and he enjoys it.
But
And
he also takes those breaks.
he takes breaks.
True
He
breaks.
takes a lot of dad naps too. Shout out to the people who take dad naps. 20 minutes in front of a TV, reclined back, snoring with a cat on your lap. Classic dad nap. But I might be losing the plot here, but I was talking to my dad about all this burnout, and he was like, well, when I was your age and I graduated college and got my first job, pay was competitive for cost of living at the time in the 80s, and health insurance was fully covered under, it wasn't
Mhm,
incorporated into my salary. It was, they paid for it. It did not come out of my salary.
mhm.
And I didn't know that was a thing
Yeah,
because at my last job, I did not have benefits or health insurance. I paid for that out of my pocket, and it was
mhm.
hella expensive. So I think it's just,
Yeah, it's this totally different thing where you're working for a company that values you, whereas now that's not always the case, but we're told we need to work more and work harder, and
mhm.
it's really just leading us to be so stressed all the time about everything.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this during the time of Corona, where we're all in quarantine, one, I hope you're healthy and safe. But two, I hope that this is helping more and more people realize that the whole globe needed a pause because we're overwhelmed and stressed and burnt out.
And we were at our breaking point pretty much.
Yeah. And like the time to take a break is not when we're 60, hoping to retire. It's now so that we can stay on the path for the long run.
Mhm.
So those are my thoughts on burnout today.
Alright, so bringing it back to burnout, what are a few ways we can do things in our daily lives that can help us take breaks, intentional breaks, real breaks, and help us avoid being burnt out in the long term? What do you think, Marina?
Like the most important thing I've started doing is leaving my yoga mat out all the time next to my bed because I see it and remember I'm going to stretch. And so I've started stretching every morning after I climb out of bed. And then when I'm getting ready and unwinding at night, I stretch again. So I'm also trying to incorporate exercise throughout the day, but as long as I am doing some gentle movements, I feel better. And I like starting my day that way instead of just reaching for my phone.
Yeah, I think physical activity really just helps release the physical tension in your body, and I think it's also good for the mind too, but again, it's that thing where you're doing this action that's reinforcing in your head that you matter, and I think it's great for all of us to, do physical movement every day, but, it's again just, taking time for yourself and having that daily reminder that you are important, you matter, and you're more than the money you make, you're more than the time you spend working, you're more than your hobbies, you
You're
know?
not your job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're your interests, your passions. You are a person, and you matter.
you do. You do matter. We all matter. And I think another way to enforce that is by kind of asking yourself, do I want to be doing this or do I feel like I should be doing this? And if I feel like I should be doing this, why? And do I really need to do it in that case?
Mhm.
And that has helped me definitely set boundaries and communicate, hey, I need a break. This isn't the right fit for me.
Yeah, so I think this week, one thing we can all do is kind of follow Marina's footsteps and take the challenge to say no to something that we want to say no to.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to say no to so many things. It's going to be
I'm
great.
so excited, I can't wait. Yeah, no, I think no is just it's really important to set boundaries, and it's important to respect yourself and respect other people by saying no.
Yeah. Real story here, right here and now, guys. Nicole asked me to do something the other day, and I said, hey, I can't take it on today. And she said, I respect your boundaries. No worries. And
Mhm.
it was great.
Yeah, it was no big deal, really. Okay, so another thing we can do is turn off our screens. We don't need to be connected all the time because I think connection is a great thing, and, having technology in our phones and everything like that it's amazing that we can be connected with each other miles and time zones apart, but sometimes it can be too much, and I think that it's important to respect our own boundaries again and turn off our screens, because they can be a big source of stress, and I don't know about you guys, but I go to sleep with TikTok jingles stuck in my head, and I spend, like, 2 minutes on that app a day. I don't know how it happens, but it's not healthy.
I feel you. I wake up with the TikTok jingles in my head, even if I haven't been watching videos
Yeah.
before I
Like,
go to
why
sleep.
am I narrating my life in TikTok? I don't know.
I don't
Right.
know.
Like, I mean, it's fun and casual, but at the same time, like, that's adding extra stress in my life in some ways that I don't need because it's distracting me.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's like a constant stimulation to this one part of your brain so that it never really rests.
Mhm. Yeah, and taking that rest is so important, and scheduling downtime for yourself every day. So, another challenge we have for you is over the next week to take 1 hour for yourself every day, and if that means you have to tell your husband to watch the kids, do that. If that means you have to tell your parents you can't have dinner with them, that means you have to do that, you know?
And if you have to calendar it.
Yeah,
Put it
put it
in
in your
your
Google Calendar.
planner.
Yeah,
Put it somewhere. Put on a sticky note on your door so that you see it before you walk out of the bathroom.
mhm.
Do something.
Remind yourself that it's
Yeah,
okay to
and
do and it's necessary.
it's like try doing it every day this week because it's going to be hard. It takes practice and we got to focus on progress, not perfection.
Mhm. And that's what we're gonna leave you with today is to focus on just slowly improving it over time. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you didn't reach an hour of downtime, it's okay, you know? If you still said yes to something that you didn't wanna do, it's okay. We're gonna get better at it over time. We're gonna reduce our stress levels. Everything's gonna be okay. We will all retire eventually. We might not own
Eventually.
houses, but hey, we have avocado toast and,
I love
you know
avocado
yeah,
toast.
me too, so it's gonna be fine, but yeah, really reducing those levels of stress will help us be a less burnt out generation, and, the world's gonna need that. We don't need all these stressed out people running around all the time.
Yeah, the world already needs us, guys. Let's do it.